5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. We are now going to be watching Livestream Kids with Nick and Johnny. Today is all about love. There are different types of love for objects, people, and things we like doing. I love sweets. I believe that Jesus died on the cross for you and for me to help us be friends with God again. In this way, he showed us the greatest love of all. He loves us. Enjoy and have a wonderful day.
Oh, hey Livestream Kids! I'm Nicola and we're back on the yellow sofa. Have a watch of this clip and see if you can guess what today's theme is all about.
You know what I don't understand, Chuck? I don't understand love. Who does? Explain love to me, Chuck. I can recommend a book, or a painting, or a song, or a poem, but I can't explain love.
Today is all about love. But what is love? Can you describe it? Love can be a feeling. You can love someone, maybe your mum, dad, brother, sister, best friend. You can love something, a book, or I love them, or oh, I love you, I love you too. Or you can love doing something, playing badminton, visiting your nana, eating cake. Love is having a deep affection for someone or finding great pleasure in something. Love is a good thing. We all want to be loved. So how do we earn love? What do we do to deserve it? Well, we're going to get to the bottom of it. But first, it's a yellow sofa recap. Recap! We have covered a lot of ground. Episode 1, anger. Episode 2, trust. Episode 3, revenge. How are you getting on? It's okay if you are still working on these. In fact, we never stop working on them. We aren't perfect, but we do get to be like this with someone who led a perfect life. I'm talking about Jesus, by the way, and people close to us tend to rub off on us. Have you got a friend you love hanging out with? Have fun with? Maybe you start to talk a bit the same and sound like each other. Maybe you have the same catchphrase. Well, the same can be said for you and Jesus. And Jesus is perfect. But you? Me? Perfect? Yeah, not so much. I wondered, do you like the idea of being the best, the favourite, impressing the most? It's really good to want to do your best. But that's not how our relationship with God works. That's not how you win God's heart. A life committed to following Jesus isn't about following a long list of things you can do and things you can't do, and then seeing what mark you get at the end of your life. Am I being marked on this? Have you ever had a star chart or a house point at school? Well, it can be tempting to think that being a Christian works like a reward chart, but it doesn't. That's not how God works. It'd be like, I'd do something pleasing to God, like not taking revenge, then I'd take a star. But imagine you go to put your star on your star chart, and what you see is more like and God says, this is how I see you. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Ooh, that just got interesting. I know what you're thinking. You know who you are. You know your name, you know your address, you know what school you go to and what year you're in. But are those things all of who you are? Do you know what God says when you ask him who you are? I'm Nicola and my specialist subject is what God says about me. He says I must work harder to be accepted. He says I'm not quite good enough yet. He says I must pray every day to impress him. He says I'm his child. He says I'm loved. He says I'm his child and I'm loved, and that's who I am. I am loved. You are a child of God. But sometimes we see ourselves not as God sees us, but as other people see us. Maybe your friends see you as someone who is good at football, quick at maths. Maybe you do the neatest plats or you tell the funniest jokes. But they are not the most important thing about you. I'll show you what I mean. We can think of who we are as being defined by what we do and how well we do it. And if we impress enough, we'll be popular enough. And so we look for approval from our friends and people we hope to be our friends. So let the Lockdown Olympics begin.
Thank you, Nicola. Well, as we welcome viewers from around the globe, I would like to welcome my co-commentator, Bob Trajkovsky.
Judy, I'm just glad to be here.
Well, the weather has really proved itself, Bob. Let's see if our contestant can too. Johnny has really hit top form just in time for these Olympics.
That's not always a given, Judy.
And here we go, gliding through the bins that represent the slalom of life. A great hand over there. He has to deliver the baby, of course, to the final post. He's jumped through hoops, and what do you think of that hula, Bob?
Hip, hip, hooray.
Can he find the strength to ascend the hill of difficulty? And he does it with total ease. If he can pull it round now for the try-hard tunnel.
He's got the agility of a python.
He has, Bob, yes.
You know, Judy, when we say jump, he says how high.
Bob, what do you think is behind this extraordinary transformation?
You know, Judy, they say confidence breeds confidence.
That's right, and now for the home straight. Great waddling there. He has delivered that baby effortlessly.
He's done that before, Judy, that's for sure.
You see, friendships and relationships built on approval can be pretty tiring. But trying to keep on impressing, that's just exhausting, because you have to try even harder.
Whoa.
But we don't have to impress God. It's great if you have talents and we'll celebrate that. But when it comes to God, you can't earn extra credit. He'll always be more interested in who you are than what you do. Full stop. Knowing you are loved is everything. Even before Jesus did any of that cool stuff. You know, water into wine, making the blind see, walking on water, rising from the dead. Pretty cool. Even before that, God said, "This is my son, with whom I am well pleased." Have you ever wondered why God said that then? He didn't wait until he'd miraculously turned 5 loaves into the world's biggest picnic and say, "That's my boy, yes, miracle worker, mine, mine, mine." Woo, woo. No, he didn't. God set it out from the start. So Jesus understood that who he was would always be more important, more significant than what he did. Eesh, so good. So, doing to earn God's approval kind of misses the point. You are loved, and that's who you are. Loved. Someone get the door. Ooh, still loved. He can't love you any more than he does, and he can't love you any less. You know, the reason we often get this wrong is because we can slip into wrong thinking, like, well, I'm not going to do anything for you because you've not done anything for me. I'll love you if you love me. When we know who we are, a child of God, if you missed it, we are freed from all of this sort of thinking. And it becomes possible to love others. It makes it simple to love others. And yes, I'm talking about that person that manages to wind you up a lot and that person who's mean to you. We don't have to be best friends with everyone, but we can show love to everyone because we aren't putting conditions on people. Because God's love for us is unconditional. That means it's not dependent on us doing something. The Bible says we love each other because he loved us first. So that's why. Family focus. Can you imagine someone loving you more than your mum or your dad or the person that looks after you? Even more than that. The love you have from the people around you is a teeny tiny fraction of the love we're talking about with God. Amazing! It's amazing! We know love because of the cross. We show love to others because he loved us first, and we grow in God's unconditional love. We know, we show, we grow. Know, No show grow. No show grow. We know we show we grow. As a family, can you think of a verse from the Bible to remind you of the cross so that you know it? Then try and find a verse that encourages you to show love to others. And finally, a verse that talks about God's unconditional love to help you grow. Can you write these out and maybe stick them by your front door? And finally, perhaps more seriously, ask your grown-ups to help you by demonstrating this very helpful dance.
Know it, show it, grow it. Know it, show it, grow it.
So all efforts to impress God or get his attention, they're gone. Because we understand who we are. We are loved.
Good morning and welcome to Lowestoft Community Church Online.
And a very special welcome if you're joining us this morning for our Alpha Launch Sunday.
This morning we'll be hearing from Ben as he tells us a little bit more about the Alpha course.
And there'll be an opportunity for you to sign up for the Alpha course, which starts next Sunday, the 27th of September at 7:30 p.m. And you'll be able to sign up for this later on in the service.
I'm going to read you some verses that have just really spoken to me. There's a song that came out at the beginning of lockdown that is basically these verses. So I'll read it to you. It's Numbers chapter 6, 23 to 27. Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. You should say to them, may the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look with favour on you and give you peace. In this way, they will pronounce my name over the Israelites and I will bless them. And it just really spoke to me about the fact that God's promised me peace and joy, and it's not because of me or anything I do or the circumstances that I've got or that I'm in. It's because God's with me. So I just want to pray that over you this morning as well.
For those of you who take communion with us when we do that on a Sunday, we'd really encourage you to make time for that during our worship this morning.
And before Ben talks to us this morning, we're now going to have a time of worship.
The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, let all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide. He trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, we'll see how great is our God. And age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and end, beginning and sing how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Higher than the mountains that I face, you are stronger than the power of the grave. You are constant in the trial and the change. One thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes, and it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. 'Cause one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. In death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid, there's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. 'Cause your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes, and it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. 'Cause one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love.
Well, good morning and welcome to our Alpha Launch Sunday. And I don't know about you, but How do you react when sometimes somebody tells you something that you really think is unbelievable? What do? Do you just kind of like respond and do you believe them, or are you gullible, or are you someone who's like really skeptical? Sometimes when we look at the claims of Christianity and we don't do any investigation into them, sometimes those claims can seem pretty far-fetched. Now your response sometimes might be, give me some proof. Give me some proof that these claims are true or not. Well, if that's your response, then you're in good company, because there's an account in the Bible where one of the disciples of Jesus said exactly the same thing as you. Give me some proof. You can find it in the book of John, which is in the New Testament. It's one of the Gospels, which is kind of the life story of Jesus, and it's in chapter 20. And the context for this story, for this account, is that Jesus has risen from the dead. And that happened on that first Easter Sunday. And he then, a few days later, appeared to a number of his really close friends, which the Bible calls disciples. But one of the friends, Thomas, he wasn't with them at that time. So when all his friends came back to him and said, "You'll never guess what, Thomas, Jesus has risen from the dead." And we know because we saw him. He came into this room that we're at and we were able to talk with him and see him and touch him. And he's alive again. He's not dead anymore. Thomas just didn't believe him. He couldn't get his head around it. He was like, well, there's no way that happened. People don't rise from the dead. And I can't believe it happened. I've not seen him, so I can't believe at all. He was totally skeptical and just didn't believe what his friends had to say. Now maybe you have had exactly the same response when a Christian or someone you know goes to church says to you that they believe that Jesus was resurrected from the dead, and this shows that he was the Son of God. Maybe you've had exactly the same response as Thomas when you've said, maybe in your head you just thought you're mad, but outwardly you've said to them, well, give me some proof. Give me some proof that this Jesus really is alive. And that's what Thomas said. He said to his friends, he said, well, I need to see Jesus. I need to touch him. I need to have some evidence that Jesus really has come to life again. And what this kind of tells me is that it's actually okay to have those reactions when you're faced with the claims of Christianity. Those claims which are huge claims, which says that there's a God that created this whole universe. And that God loves you, and that God loves you so much that he came to earth in the form of a man, Jesus Christ. And that this Son of God, Jesus, the Son of God, would die, would rise again, so that you can have eternal life with him if you put your faith in him and you choose to follow him. That's kind of briefly the claims of Christianity. And you might have heard me say that and think, you're mad. Where's the proof of that? Where's the evidence that any of this happened? And you might just have those thoughts, but there's a real danger that you stop in that place, that you just have those thoughts, but you don't investigate them any further. The story with Thomas doesn't just finish with him saying, I don't believe, therefore I'm going to forget about it. It doesn't just stop with him saying, well, that's great, other disciples, you can have that belief that Jesus rose from the dead, but it's not for me. It's good for you, but it's not good for me. That's not how the story ended, because there's a second part to this story of Thomas. Another few days later, the disciples were again together, and this time Thomas did get the invite, which was helpful. And Jesus came into the room again, and what happened in that moment is really special. Jesus walked straight up to Thomas, and he made Thomas physically touch him, made him physically touch his hands and his feet and his side, so that Thomas could get the proof that he needed to believe. He got the evidence that he required in order to believe that Jesus really had come back to life again, which demonstrated that he really was the Son of God. Therefore, we should take everything he said seriously. Now, this story tells me two things. It tells me, firstly, that Thomas's friends hadn't abandoned him in that moment. Just because Thomas hadn't believed what they said, they didn't just turn around and say, well, Thomas, get lost then. If you're not going to believe us, we're just going to crack on ourselves. You can go off and do your own thing. They stuck with him, and they kept taking him to a place where they knew Jesus would come and meet him. That's a great lesson for those of us who are Christians. Just because people might not always listen to us when we first of all tell them of Jesus, let's stick with them. Let's never abandon them. Let's keep bringing them to a place in conversations or physically where they could encounter Jesus for themselves. But secondly, it tells me that Jesus wasn't offended that Thomas was skeptical. that he had questions about whether he was alive or not. That Jesus didn't think, well, if you're not going to believe me, others will. Therefore, I forget you, Thomas. I've got loads of other people that are going to follow me. Jesus wanted Thomas to believe, and therefore found him and helped him to believe. So, if you're not a Christian and you're watching this morning or another time, and you've kind of someone said to you, hey, why don't you watch this thing about Alpha? You'd love to find out a bit more. For you need to hear that actually, if your initial response to the claims of Christianity is disbelief, then don't just stop there. If Thomas had stopped there, then he would have missed out on a life-changing encounter with the risen Jesus. Can you imagine if his life had gone on and he had just stopped at his point of disbelief and never taken it further, never hung in there waiting to encounter Jesus? Don't stop yourself with your disbelief and your questions. Do something with them. And in a few moments, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Alpha course which we're running, which is a great way of taking your disbelief and your questions and doing something positive with them. And we can explore Christianity together through the Alpha course. But before I go on and tell you a little bit more details about that, you're going to hear from my friend Toby, who is going to tell you what he did with his questions and the journey that he went on himself.
Hi there, my name's Toby, and I live in Norwich. I'm married, got 3 children, and Norfolk boy, born and bred. I'm part of the leadership team of a church in Norwich called King's Community Church. That's what I do for a job, what I do for a living. Never expected to be doing that in my life, and certainly never expected to become a Christian either. I didn't grow up in a sort of Christian home, never grew up going to church, didn't read the Bible, didn't really know too much about Christianity other than what I heard maybe through, assemblies at school, or going to a wedding or a funeral, or maybe the odd Christian that I bumped into, but generally speaking, didn't know a huge amount. And I guess I had quite a caricatured opinion about Christianity and about organised religion. I think if I was to describe myself before I became a Christian, which was around the age of 25, I was someone who was searching. I wanted to know, were there answers to life's big questions? Is there meaning in life? Is there purpose to our existence? Where we come from, where we're going, what happens when we die? Those sorts of things. How do we make sense of the world that we live in? And what makes most sense of it? And is it even possible to find answers to those kinds of questions? So I was definitely searching. I was also, would have described myself as spiritual. I was never an out-and-out atheist. I always believed that there was more to life than just the material and physical that we see around us. And then I would describe myself as skeptical as well. Like I said, I was skeptical of what I perceived to be organised religion, and Christianity would have certainly fallen into that camp. And then I started to ask questions coming into my sort of early 20s. 23, 24 years old. I'd been traveling quite a bit. I'd worked as a chef for around 10 years. My philosophy of life was kind of work hard, play hard. And then I ended up living in a house with my girlfriend, Jean, and another friend. And both Jean and this other mate were from Christian backgrounds. They weren't going to church though. But I ended up in conversations with my friend on a number of occasions. And we started talking about life, the universe, everything, late into the night. And those conversations often turned to God, to the Bible, and to Christianity. And so I started to throw my questions at my friend, and we started to get in conversation about it. And he started to answer some of those questions for me. You know, how on earth can you take the Bible seriously? What about Jesus? Did he ever really exist? What about suffering, and what about evil in the world? And how can you follow a God who allows that kind of thing to happen? And I've been through things in my life up to that point which were really difficult and painful. And so I had questions around these things. And quite honestly, I never thought that I'd find meaningful, substantial answers within Christianity. But the more I explored, the more I asked, the more I realised actually there is substance here to these questions that I've got. Not just my intellectual questions, but also my felt needs as a human being as well. I realised I've done things wrong in my life. I realised that if there is a God, boy, do I need forgiveness for those things. And I found those answers within Christianity, within this Jesus. And as unlikely as it sounds to me still, I remember one day just saying, I think this stuff makes sense. And I think I'd prayed before that, actually. I'd said, you know, God, if you're there, I really want to know. I really want to know if you're real. And I think I was at that point ready to change my life in response to that. Not try and adapt truth to my way of thinking, but to change my life in accordance with what is true. And I remember praying that, and then months later, or weeks later, whatever it was, sitting in a front room with my girlfriend Jean and my friend, and just saying, I think I believe this stuff about Jesus. And I prayed some sort of prayer, you know, asking God for forgiveness, saying that I want to follow him with my life. I can't remember the exact words I prayed. There was no massive light from heaven or angels descending or anything. But all I do know is this: from that moment on, my life did change, and absolutely for the better. It doesn't mean it's all been plain sailing following Jesus. It doesn't mean it's an easy deal. But there was certainly a massive change in my life at that point. And then we started going to church, and never been to church really before. And we used to go, 15 minutes late and leave 15 minutes early, because we didn't want to get kind of caught by anyone. We were just kind of a bit wary, I guess. But I discovered church to be a place actually full of people, from not just old people, which was my perspective, or irrelevant and dull, but actually I found a deeply loving community there, from people from all walks of life. And that was like 25 years ago, whatever it is now. And here I am, still following Jesus, and now working for a local church. And so I'd encourage those, if you've got questions about life, about meaning, about purpose, about what this deal is all about, then I'd really encourage you to go on Alpha and have a look for yourselves. Thanks for listening, and hope it's been helpful.
That's fantastic, Toby. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story, and how you dealt with the questions and the disbelief that you had yourself around Christianity. So you might be thinking now, well, what is Alpha all about? What does the Alpha course mean? What is it, this thing that these guys are promoting this morning and trying to encourage me to join in with? So Alpha is a course that was developed many, many years ago by a church in London, and is now been done by millions of people all across the world. We've run it loads of times ourselves here in Lowestoft, and it's always a real highlight of our year. The idea really is that it's every week, we meet once a week, and every week we cover a different topic which looks at some of the central claims of Christianity. So some of the topics of the evenings will be things like, who was Jesus? Why did Jesus die? Did Jesus rise from the dead? And we also look at other important subjects like, how can God allow suffering, or do miracles still happen today? So we look at a whole variety of things about Christianity and associated with Christianity. And the idea of the evenings is that we watch a talk on video, and then we break into small groups where we can discuss the talk. You might have got questions from the talk, things you think, I'm not sure about that, how about that? Oh, that was interesting. Or it might be that actually you've just got other questions related to life that you just think, I don't know where I can take these questions, I want someone to give me an answer. What we say is that nothing is off the table. In those small groups, we will take the conversation wherever you want to lead it. Our goal really is to help you explore faith and to serve you. You're not coming to us for us to bash you over the head and to tell you we're right, you're wrong, now you need to believe us. That really, really isn't how it is. Our goal is to help you to explore faith. And if you get to the end of the course and you decide you never want to see us again, then that's absolutely fine, that's no worries. But we want to help serve you with the questions that you've got around faith. So how it works is that we're starting next Sunday evening, so Sunday the 27th, and it will start at 7:30 p.m. And due to the current social distancing requirements and everything like that, we'll be meeting using Zoom. We did it last term and it worked really, really well. And the people that came along really found it engaging, and they found it still a useful way of connecting with people. And if you want to find out more about how to get involved, then you need to email us on alpha@lcc-lowestoft.co.uk, or you can send a message through the Facebook page, or you can look at our website and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you to get you signed up. So if you want to join us, please let us know, and then we can get in touch with you with the details about how to join in on the Zoom call. And you might be thinking, well, what are these talks like? What does it look like? What's the feel of it? Well, we're going to show you now just a little bit of a clip, a few minutes clip from one of the weeks of the Alpha course that we watch, so you get a taste of it, and hopefully that whets your appetite to join us next Sunday evening for our first session of the Alpha course.
Hi, I'm Nicky. Welcome to Alpha. Life is busy. Every day we ask so many questions. What should I wear? What's the weather going to be like? What's happening today? How am I going to fit everything in? But then there are those bigger questions. Like, why am I here? Where am I heading? Is this it? Is there more to life than this? These are life's big questions, but there's rarely enough time to think them through properly.
We all have different perspectives on the meaning of life and faith, and Alpha is an opportunity to explore life's big questions.
This is a great place to come together and talk about them openly and honestly. I'm Gemma.
I'm Toby.
And this is Alpha.
I go on Google.
I definitely Google.
I go on Wikipedia.
Internet.
I scroll through all the different answers, and then I try and combine it, and then make my own kind of like cornerstone.
Or smart friends.
I don't ask big life questions. It's too hard to answer.
Google or my grandmother.
I meditate or I read.
When I have a big life questions, I probably go to my family.
I haven't really had any mess of what to say.
To my mom or my dad, basically.
My mom or my dad, maybe my grand.
I get most of my answers from the library in any section there because I don't really trust the people that I'm around.
The key is always to yourself. You got to figure some things out for yourself.
If I'm confused, I go to him first. And he confuses me more.
But when it's something more personal, I try to find it within myself first.
Friends of mine told me that the first night they came to Alpha, they sat in their car for half an hour waiting and watching people going in. And eventually when they'd seen enough normal looking people going in, they thought they'd give it a try.
And one thing that might be going through your mind is, am I going to be the only one there who doesn't believe all this stuff, who's not a Christian, that doesn't go to church? Well, if that's you, then you're in the right place. Alpha is designed for people who wouldn't call themselves Christians or who are not regular churchgoers.
It might feel a bit strange to be discussing life and faith with people that you've never met before, but the best thing about Alpha is often the great friendships that are formed over the weeks.
For much of my life, I was not remotely interested in Christianity. In fact, I don't think I'd ever come to something like Alpha. I was not brought up as a Christian. My father was a secular Jew. He was an agnostic, and my mother didn't go to church, and I had no interest at all in Christianity. First of all, I just thought it was so boring. Everything to me about church, Christianity, religion was just dull and dreary. And it kind of made me feel a little bit guilty. I didn't know why, but I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I also thought it was untrue. I thought I'd sort of thought it through, and I'd come up with these intellectual objections, and I called myself, very pretentiously, I called myself a logical determinist. And I quite enjoyed arguing with people who called themselves Christians. And at university, I had a bit of a reputation for being an argumentative atheist. And I also thought it was irrelevant to my life. I couldn't see how someone who'd lived 2,000 years ago, 2,000 miles away, could have any relevance to my life today. It just seemed outdated and irrelevant. But at the same time, looking back now, I would say something was missing. I say that because I don't think I was living in the moment. I was always looking forward to the next thing in life. So when I was at school, I was thinking, when I finish my exams, maybe that will be when I'm going to really start to enjoy life. I finished my exams, and then after about 3 weeks, I started to think there's got to be more to life than this. And I thought, well, maybe when I've left school, that will be what life's all about. And then I left school, and after about 3 weeks, I started to think, there's got to be more to life than this. I thought, well, maybe the answer is to get a girlfriend. And somehow, I don't know how I managed it, but I managed to find a girlfriend. Again, after about 3 weeks, I started to think, there's got to be more to life than this. And basically, there was something missing. I was longing for more.
The actor Jim Carrey once said, "I wish everyone could get rich and famous and have everything they've ever dreamed of, so they would know that's not the answer." Some people dream of having their name in lights, of fame and fortune. Some people dream of finding happiness through relationships, careers, money, whatever it may be. But do you ever get that niggly feeling that, as good as those things are, there must be more to life?
Yeah, all too often life just doesn't turn out the way we think it should. And even when it does and we achieve our wildest dreams, it's somehow never quite enough. It just doesn't satisfy. It's like there's something missing. The comedian and actor Russell Brand said, "Drugs and alcohol are not my problem. Reality is my problem. Drugs and alcohol are my solution to fill up a hole inside me." And Jesus said, "I am the bread of life." In other words, I'm the one who fulfills the longing that's deep inside every human heart. Jesus claimed to be the one person who can satisfy that spiritual hunger.
Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the rock group Queen, had amassed a huge fortune and attracted millions of fans. But he admitted in an interview shortly before his death that he was desperately lonely. He said this, "You can have everything in the world and still be the loneliest man, and that's the most bitter type of loneliness. Success has brought me world idolization and millions of pounds, but it's prevented me from having the one thing we all need, a loving, ongoing relationship."
Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Ultimately, there's only one relationship that is totally loving and goes on forever, and that's a relationship with God. And Jesus said, "I am the way to that relationship."
We are living in unprecedented times. Culture is shifting, and our social fabric is being tested. This is a time of uncertainty. But this is also a time of opportunity, of reimagining a new way of doing life. According to a study in the UK, only 9% of people want the world to return back to the way it was. What the enemy means for harm, God is using for good. Amidst the uncertainty, people are asking questions. Who's in control? What's really important? Where's my security? Alpha is positioned to respond to these questions. We've taken Alpha online, and we are equipping the church to meet people as they search for truth. Inviting people to sign in from home, join an online small group, explore the big questions of life, sharing light in the darkness.
Alpha Online has totally astonished me. I was not interested in Alpha Online. I always said, why would anyone want to do Alpha Online? This is about, having a meal together. And so I had no interest in it at all. But what happened was, when we couldn't meet anymore, our small group from Lowestoft went online. And to my amazement, it worked so well online.
We've seen thousands of people sign up to wrestle with life's biggest questions. More people are signing up now than we've ever seen in Alpha's entire history.
We were shown this painting, and it was of Jesus, and it's of him knocking on the door. And we went into a prayer, and I prayed. I said, Jesus, if you're real, come through. And the only thing I can describe was that I did feel Jesus walk through the door that I had opened. I know I've never had that feeling before in my life. I said to the group, I can't wait to meet you in flesh, because every Wednesday I've just been talking to pixels about God. As if it wasn't crazy enough.
I'm a digital person. I was always looking for something online, and what made me decide for Alpha basically was the fact that you have said, doesn't matter who you are, come who you are. I think that was kind of very impressive, and I just felt encouraged to give it a try. I just felt like for the first time in my life, I just felt that I was loved. And now I feel more confident, and I feel in peace.
just seen a friend dancing for ages, and we had our conversation on opposite sides of the pavement, shouting at each other. And he said, "Oh, you're looking really well." And I said, yeah, I'm doing okay with lockdown, actually. And at the moment, I'm feeling pretty good. I said, what I've been doing, though, is I've been reading the Bible. And there's loads of stuff in it. You know, there's a lot of hope in there. And I think we're going to be all right. And there was a bit of an awkward silence. Like, there would have been with me if someone had said that to me a couple of months ago. And he said, I get you. You've become a philosopher. And I said, no. I've become a Christian. I just shouted it from the other side of a pavement.
The gospel is spreading beyond church walls into new frontiers, bringing hope. We have the potential to see something extraordinary happen. Something more extraordinary than we've ever seen before.
Thanks everyone for joining us for our Alpha launch Sunday.
As Ben said, you can sign up to Alpha now by going to our website. There should also be a link on your screen and in the notes below.
If you'd value prayer or you'd like to speak to anyone about anything that you've heard this morning, you can message us on our Facebook page. We'd really love to hear from you.
Each week after our Sunday online service, we have a coffee room on Zoom. We'd love you to join us there. The link you should find in the chat below. And we'd love to chat to you and get to know you. If you're watching this at a later date, please join us for Sunday Online or drop us a message and get in touch.
But for now though, it's goodbye. Thanks for joining us. Take care and stay safe.